The voice of BBC commentator Raymond Glendenning crackles out of the radio. And this time a neat backpass by Sue finds Matthews. The date is October 20th, 1945. World War II has only been over for a month. As people across England crowd around their radios, they can hear 54,000 fans roaring on their team against Wales at the Hawthorns. Nearly 80 years on, while Stanley Matthews remains one of English football's most enduring names, Frank Sue is a relative unknown. Yet Sue's story, one of adversity, celebrity, and then obscurity, is significant. And slowly being recognized once more. Short presentational gray line. 3 years earlier, on May 9, 1942, a 28-year-old Sue played his first game for England, also against Wales, in front of 30,000 people at Cardiff's Ninian Park. It was a historic debut. Sue became the first non-white man to play for England. He was already the first Chinese player in the English Football League. And he remains the only player of Asian descent to represent England at senior level. In the 1930s, Sue was a star. A household name who appeared on cigarette cards and featured in newspapers, he was described as a talented halfback, clever, quick with an eye for an incisive pass and able to play in any position. England teammate Stan Mortensen summed up Sue's style. Everything he did was hallmarked, wrote Mortensen in his book Football is My Game. He seemed incapable of a clumsy movement. But Sue's fame faded in the following decades. To the vast majority of fans, his name is unknown. Sue was born in 1914 in Buxton, Derbyshire, a few months before the start of the First World War. His mother Beatrice was English and his father Quan was Chinese. They met in the Manchester area and, at the time of their marriage, were registered as living at the same address. In the 1911 census there were only 1,319 China-born citizens residing in England and Wales in a population of about 35 million. The main source of income for many Chinese immigrants, including Quan, was running steam laundries, a quintessential working-class job for many settlers. Laundry work was traditionally performed by women, so the Chinese community faced less hostility because they were seen as taking women's jobs rather than men's. Even so, Chinese workers were caught in an impossible situation. If they did work, they were accused of stealing local jobs. If they did not, they were deemed idle. Women who married immigrants automatically lost their British nationality and became foreigners. The hostility they faced would occasionally turn into social unrest. The first Chinese laundry in London was stoned soon after it opened in 1901. During the 1911 Cardiff riots, all 30 Chinese laundries in the city were targeted. Quan and Beatrice moved to Buxton and, after spells in different areas, had settled in West Derby in Liverpool by 1920, running a popular laundry on Town Row. Sue's footballing abilities were clear from a young age and he joined Prescott Cables as an 18-year-old in 1932. Although he was scouted by Liverpool and Everton, Stoke City declared their interest and manager Tom Mather signed him for £400 in 1933. Promoted to the top flight in Sue's first season, Stoke were a thrilling and elegant side, with Sue dovetailing with the legendary Matthews. By 1938, a 24-year-old Sue was Stoke captain, and the demands of fans and journalists for him to be called up by England were increasing. The outbreak of war delayed his promotion to the international stage before he made his debut in 1942. Sue played 260 matches for Stoke between 1933 and 1945, including wartime friendlies and cup games, scoring 20 goals in the process. He also became a national icon. His wedding with his first wife, Beryl Lunt, made headlines in the Staffordshire Sentinel in 1938 after attracting a crowd of 2,000 of well-wishers despite attempts to keep the ceremony a secret. The article also revealed that the honeymoon would be spent in Bournemouth. The media rarely published details about footballers' personal lives, but Sue's stardom caused this excitement. His Chinese heritage was part of the intrigue. It was regarded as a novelty, said Susan Gardner, author of The Wanderer, the story of Frank Sue. They were intrigued by the fact that this very young, talented Chinese player had joined Stoke City rather than being hostile towards him. Nevertheless, Sue had to deal with regular references to his race and his name being used in disrespectful pun-filled headlines. Ronnie Sue, Frank's nephew, said in the documentary Frank Sue, The Forgotten Legend, that there were cartoons of him as a Chinese character with a football at his feet. Generally, Sue received positive coverage and, seen grinning in photographs of the time, it is easy to understand why he was referred to as the Smiler.